So, good evening, all. My name's Lorraine Copes. For those of you that don't know me, tonight we are here for another edition of Thursday Night Takeaway. And Thursday Night Takeaway is a fortnightly web series where I talk to phenomenal founders and leaders within the hospitality industry. And this evening, I am joined by a fabulous founder who I'm going to hand over for her to introduce who she is and what she does.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mehak. I am the owner and founder of Bindas Eatery.
Thank you. And tell us, what is Bindas Eatery?
So, we do what I call Indian as well as Indian inspired food. We started off as a pop up, had done really, really well, and we opened our first flagship store. Well, I should say restaurant, really, in Westfield White City. And it's great. We serve up Indian inspired food. So the whole ethos and point is global cuisine with an Indian soul. So that's the kind
No,
of food that we do.
super. And tell me what your path into hospitality was or has been, and how long you've been in the industry.
Um, to be honest, this was a passion project turned career. I had no experience in hospitality whatsoever. Um, I did the whole thing that I was supposed to do, which was go to university, get a degree in law and politics, and I was supposed to become a solicitor. I hated it. I hated paralegaling. Felt like it wasn't for me. Um, I then started working for my dad's company, and we were working in property. I then got married, and I decided that I wanted to do something for myself. So I sort of had like this turning moment when I hit 29, 30, and was like, right, I need to do something for myself. I started a food blog. And then I had seen a competition advertised on Hot Dinners where Westfield were looking for the next food entrepreneur. So I decided just to enter and apply on a whim. And I had won it. And my career and my change in life just sort of skyrocketed from there.
Oh, wow. And how long ago was that?
So the competition was in 2018. And after winning it, 9 months later, they said, right, so the prize was to have a 2 week pop up in the shopping centre,
Mm,
effectively all expenses paid, apart from staffing and food being my cost.
right.
They had fully fitted and kitted out a space for me. Um, and I traded there for 2 weeks. It went really well. And at that point, Westfield said, right, well, even though you cook fantastic food and we love your concept and your brand, you're just still a little bit too green for us to give you a restaurant space. You need to go away and get some experience before we can consider that again.
Okay.
Um, and then, yeah, that was 2019.
Wow. And then fast forward 4 years
Fast,
now.
yeah, fast forward 4 years, a pandemic later. Um,
Yeah.
so it took me a while actually to find my first pop-up site. I think at that time it was towards the end of 2019, mid 2020, and then the pandemic had hit, and I started doing even more blogging from home. I
Okay.
decided that, okay, well, if I can't open a restaurant or a pop-up right now, I was going to do orders from home. I started taking orders via Instagram, via
Okay.
email. I was completing food orders. I was literally knee deep in makhni and lamb curry and biryani for, I would say, 6 months. I was
Yeah.
making, there's one stage where I made like 10, 11 kilos in one week. And like my house literally was smelling of curry. Like, my cream, thought was going to go into turmeric after a while. Um, and then I jumped on the bandwagon of teaching Zoom classes. So I ended up
Okay.
teaching some really fun cookery, like Zoom classes. And that helped like keep the brand and also help keep
Mhm.
the passion alive of food, and also not to lose hope, which you can easily do, especially in this industry. And then when we started to see that, oh, okay, fine, um, maybe hospitality is starting to revive when Eat Out to Help Out was introduced. I went on a rampage to find a site. Eventually found one in Mayfair,
Yeah.
and literally convinced the landlord that I was the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
So much so I drove to their house to drop off food and say,
Did you?
yeah, yeah, I did.
Love
With
it.
cool
Yeah.
bags of food and
Yeah.
instructions on heating and assembling. And I
Yeah.
said, this isn't the best you've ever had. You don't need to call me ever again. And they ate my food, called me and told me that they loved it and offered me the site, which was great. And
Yeah.
I only wanted it as sort of, I thought it would only be a 6-month thing,
Yeah.
where we would, because that's what those are the terms that we had agreed, which was 6 months, see how you go, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
6 months turned into 2 years. We were doing really well. And the whole point of taking on Mayfair was one, just to see if one, I could really do this, and
Yeah.
two, if my brand and concept had legs,
Yeah.
and if it would resonate with anybody.
Yeah.
And basically that I wasn't, barking up the wrong tree, and why I should stick to property, frankly.
Mhm.
Everything went really well. I decided to call Westfield after about 6-7 months of trading at Mayfair and said, look, I've got some experience now. I kind of know what I'm doing. And you told me to call you when I had some experience. So I think it's time you gave me a restaurant. And then it just sort of took
Wow.
over, and
Yeah.
that's it. We
What?
started.
Funny.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. And tell me, now that you kind of say knee deep, you've been in the industry for a good while now.
Yeah.
Was there anything that really surprised you, that you couldn't have known from the outside looking into hospitality? So was there a singular thing that you just thought, this is not what I expected at all?
Honestly, it's staffing, staffing and
Mm,
building a team. I did not expect it to be so difficult, so relentless at the same time, and
mm,
it being actually one of the things that if you do not get right from the outset, you will fail pretty quickly and
yeah,
fall on your face.
yeah,
So as much as hospitality seems glamorous and owning a restaurant sounds glamorous and everything, it really isn't. Owning a restaurant and running any restaurant cafe is not for the faint-hearted. It emotionally and financially drains you. It really, really does. And you have to be super quick to evolve and adapt with ever-changing economic climates. And that's the
mm,
one thing that I didn't understand. I didn't really know much of, and
yeah,
I sort of had on the spot experience. And because I've been fortunate enough to have worked in my family business, I've always understood how to quickly adapt to any economic situation.
yeah,
um but that's probably one of the biggest things that learning that was most difficult, really, staffing and building a strong team, because if they don't understand your brand, they don't understand your concept, they don't understand your food, your
mhm,
ethos, you're not onto a winner there, because
yeah,
no man is an island at the end of the day.
absolutely. I use that often, actually, for sure.
Yeah.
And when did your cooking journey personally begin? Is it
Oh,
something
from
that's
a young age.
okay?
So
Okay.
it's from a young age. Honestly, I can't say that I've come from a line of amazing cooks.
Mhm.
My mum is horrendous. My grandmother
You
is
sweet.
horrendous. Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, no, they are. I don't have people are like, oh, I have these fond
Fond
memories of
memories
standing on a stool and
and
smelling this
smelling the
amazing
amazing
food. But
yeah,
no, I don't have these amazing memories of standing on a stool and smelling these amazing sweets, or smelling things from the oven. I don't. I have memories of my mum burning things at the bottom of a pan, and my grandmother making spring rolls that she used the entire roll of phyllo pastry to roll
yeah.
about this much cabbage. And
Oh,
she
bless.
wrapped the whole thing up, dropped it in the fryer, and it literally whizzed up and hit the ceiling. So that's
Mm,
those are my food memories growing up. But I actually taught myself at a young age, because in Indian culture, it's a really big thing for people to come over.
mm,
You'd have dinner parties, you'd celebrate, events, like our versions of christenings and things. Um, and it was always centered around food. And it
Mm.
was just really embarrassing because my mum could only make 3 things. And every time they'd come over, we became like the running joke of, oh, if we go to, so and so, if we go to Kitty's house, we know when you're going to eat aloo gobi, a chicken curry, and a dal and a rice, and maybe some burnt fulkas. So I said to her once, I was like, Mum, can you make anything? Can you make something else? Or can you do anything else? And then she was like, basically sod off and go and make your own food and learn yourself if you're not happy with what I make. And I
Right.
was like, fine, okay, if I've got to learn, I've got to learn. And we used to go to India every summer holiday. So I must have been about 11 or 12 at the time. And I went, I decided to stand in the pantry, have a look at all the spices, stand in the kitchen, and literally just watch the halwais, the cooks, how they used to cook. And
Okay.
earliest memory I have of food is them frying this bread called patura. And they were making chole patura, which is basically chickpea curry with fried flatbreads.
Hmm.
And my grandmother had just like gone and picked all these vegetables and things for pickling. So we have something called a chard, which is like a pickle. And
Mm.
there's a certain time where you pick these vegetables, and you need the sun as much as possible in order to sun ripen them, basically to like mature the pickles. So there were these massive beds that were out, these stretched beds, and there was all these jars laid out full of pickles, like pickles of turnips, carrots, cauliflower, chilies, tomatoes, everything. It was all for pickling, all different spices, all different things, all different flavors.
Mm.
And after frying all these breads and tasting the chickpea curry, we would go and pick all the pickles, that were almost mature, and then open up a bottle and start eating. And I thought, right, I said, if I'm going to have to bring this back, I'm going to need to learn how to cook all this stuff. So then I begged my grandmother to take me to the spice market. I literally had an empty suitcase and picked up every single spice I could find, put it all in a suitcase, and then brought it back home. And when my mom opened the suitcase up, she was just like, "What is all this?" I said, "You told me to sod off, and that if I wanted to eat good food, I'd have to learn myself. So this is
Yeah.
what I'm doing. I'm going to practice and learn myself." And she just
Mm.
went, "Okay." And then the first thing I ever made was a vegetable biryani
Yeah.
with apple chutney and mooli pickle. So I can never forget that, because all those things we I'd grown in the garden at home and at school, and I just got and picked everything, put it together, and I had learned what
Wow.
the halwais had taught me, and I just thought, right, well, this is something that I really enjoy, and it just sort of
Yeah.
just spiraled from there. So food's always been a big part of
Wow.
life, really.
Yeah. And how old were you at that point? Did you say 11 or 12?
Yeah, I was at 11 or 12 for sure, because I think I
Mm.
just reached secondary school. And that
Mhm.
time we were flying on our own to India at that point. We used to spend about 2 months in a year over there, anywhere between 1.5 months to 2.5 months, whenever, summer school holidays permit, really.
Oh, nice. And so, with that said, then, what or how do you feel then about the importance of sharing culture through food? Is it something that you think about, or is it something that you've just, yeah? What are your thoughts?
No, I do. So I think, do you know what? For me, like sharing culture through food is really, really important. Like I always call myself like Anglo Indian, because I am. Because on one hand, I'm very, very Indian, and on the one hand, I'm very, very English. So,
Mm.
but my culture will not be predominantly from India, because I never grew up there. I had summer holidays there, and I can speak the language, and
Yeah.
I understand, religion and culture, but I wouldn't say that, I am Indian. So that's
Yeah.
why at Bindas, I try and incorporate British herbs, British ingredients
Yeah.
with Indian spices and Indian cooking methods. So I think it's really, really important, because, you know, if you don't, I think that you're just missing a whole part of heritage. And I think heritage
Mm.
is what makes food and what makes culture, really.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And when you think about the hospitality in its space, so you touched on actually, touched on staffing.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what do you think the sector needs to do or change to future-proof the sector?
I honestly think that things had changed with Brexit. That's my honest opinion. I think
Mhm.
that the whole hospitality sector has seen a massive shift. Even I'm talking, we
Mhm.
when I've spoken to restaurateurs have been in this industry, for years, for 10 years or so, they've all said that everybody has just gone and dispersed and disappeared. I think there should be some more education around
Mhm.
hospitality.
Agree.
I think that there should definitely be more education to consumers about hospitality. I think that would also help people want to stay in hospitality. Help chefs actually love their jobs and stay in their jobs. Front of house love their jobs and stay in their jobs. I think that the
Mm.
mentality that a customer has also affects the industry massively.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I don't want to talk about that too much because I,
Mhm.
don't want to say that all
Mhm.
customers are bad. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that I think that sometimes they have this mentality of, yes, we are there to serve you, but
Yeah.
service does not mean butler service
Yeah.
or silver
Sure.
service.
Yeah.
So I think that that is a big problem in the
Yeah.
industry. And I
Yeah.
see it like with my own staff, how disheartened they can get, and
Yeah.
how a lot of them have left the industry because of it.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah, for
that,
sure.
I do think that entrepreneurs and I do think
Mhm.
restaurateurs and chefs should talk about it, and
Yeah.
they should talk about, when they get negative reviews and they get bad
Yeah.
reviews, or, when customers create problems for no reason, they should talk about it and say, hey, this is not acceptable. Like, even
Yeah.
though, mistakes happen, you're dealing with human beings here. And, you know, I think sometimes when you get a lot of negative feedback from customers, it can really, really affect the morale of your team. And
Yeah.
I've seen it because a lot of my chefs have left because of it, and a lot of my front of house have left because of it, because they're like, we just don't want to deal with people anymore. They go
Yeah.
off and be Amazon drivers, or they want to go off and
Mhm.
work in the airport in security and
Yeah.
stuff because
Yeah.
they don't want to
Yeah.
deal with people anymore. And I
Mhm.
think it's because people have become so used to everything being quick, easy, and like, they've got this sort of like life owes them everything kind of
Yeah.
mentality. I think that it grates on them, and especially when you're in hospitality, when your aim is to serve and your aim
Mhm.
is to create, your aim is to, really just get yourself out there and also get your business out there and to create the
Yeah.
most wonderful experience. It's just, I think it can dishearten people a lot.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems that I've honestly faced in this
Yeah.
industry, is keeping people motivated and
Yeah.
keeping staff motivated as well, and
Yeah.
incentivize them at the same time.
Yeah. And what you mentioned has come up a lot over the course of this series today, actually, just simply because there's no part of hospitality that is not affected by the very
Yeah,
same. Someone spoke to me about anxiety before looking at their phone to see what the reviews are the following day.
yeah,
And I think also going into the pandemic and coming out of the other end has as well, it's definitely changed consumer behavior, and the
yeah.
expectation has shifted too. And so yeah, it's a lot to manage, as well as every other moving cog. That is
This is it.
hospitality,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
This
it
is
is.
it. That's what I say to people. You've got to be the restaurateur. You also got to be the boss. You've also got to be the accountant. You've also got to be the Uber driver. You've also got to do. You're wearing many hats all the time. So yeah, no, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, super. And if you could, just reflecting on your journey today, if you could summarize or sum up your journey today in a singular word, if possible, what word would you use? It might be two or three words. A word is really, it's a difficult task.
Honestly, grateful. Very, very
Okay.
grateful. That's
Okay.
honestly like, I know it sounds cheesy, but I am, because even though hospitality has its own, it has its own gripes and things. I am very
Yeah.
grateful every single morning, waking up, going to a restaurant that I've created that I love, going to a
Yeah.
team that I love, going
Yeah.
into a space that I love, and serving food that I love. So I'm very, very grateful for every opportunity. So probably grateful would be my word.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And in terms of business lesson, what has been the most significant lesson today?
This is a hard one. Um,
Mhm.
honestly, go with your gut. If
Okay.
that chef does you don't feel is right for your team, don't hire them.
Mm,
If you feel that site is not quite right for you, don't take it. If you feel that general manager is not the one for you, it's they are not the one for you. Um, but in terms of like financially, I would say that whatever you would budget in order to start a restaurant, times that by like five because you're going to
I've
need
heard
more.
that before. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So whatever you're going to need, think that you're going to need double the working capital and double the amount in order to furnish and to like, put it all
yeah.
together because, costs go up, things can happen, economic things can change. You might have to source products from like
Mm.
Germany or wherever you need to source them from. And at the same time, you're going to need extra working capital to make sure your business can really go off the ground. There's like two life lessons there. Yeah, in this industry. But yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that. Again, they come up often, especially around the working capital.
Yeah.
Um, what excites you then thinking forward? What excites you about the future of hospitality? What are you looking forward to?
Honestly, seeing other restaurateurs like push boundaries and
Mhm.
actually break into the industry. I would love to see more restaurateurs um, make the switch, do what they want to do, and break into this industry. I would love to see that. Like when like for example, like one of my friends who I went to school with, she has an amazing restaurant. And I still haven't been to it till this date. But when I see her on socials and I see her, I'm always like inside, like jumping for joy that, oh my God, we used to be so close. And I can see that she's doing so well and she's flourishing. And it makes me so happy to see that. And that too, like a young a young black female entrepreneur like really making waves, and that is what it's about. Honestly, I want to see more Asians, I want to see more black people, I want to see
Mhm.
everybody breaking into this and
Mhm.
really showing their food, their culture and what it is, because restaurants are not about having the stuffy, like having those like stuffy white jackets anymore, and like finger fancy food. Like food is so open, like whether you want to do food writing, recipe creation, blogging, photography, whatever it is that you want to do, just break into the industry and just do it. Like there's
Yeah,
room and there's space for everyone. And also
there is.
I would love to see more people actually take the plunge and leap of faith and do it. Like we always
Yeah,
have people come to the restaurant and they'll say, "Oh, Mehak, how did you do this?" I've always wanted to start a bakery. I've always wanted to start something. And my advice always is just start.
yeah,
Like, there is no magic formula other than to actually dig deep, have the guts, and just freaking go for it. There is no other way other than that. So I'd love to see more entrepreneurs come, especially female entrepreneurs. I would love to see more women as well break into this. I'm going on a
yeah.
bit. I think I'm going to stop talking now.
No, you're
But
not
yeah,
at all.
yeah,
Obviously, very passionate about it. Um,
yeah.
is there anything else that you want to share before we move to our quick fire round and then wrap up?
No, I think I've done enough talking. I could go on about this industry for ages.
And remind us, where can we find you at Westfield? Sorry, just help us out. So if anyone wants to
Yes.
come and visit.
So we're based on the based on Westfield Square, on the other side, which is next to John Lewis and next to Putt Shack and right opposite the BBC Television Centre. Nearest tube is Wood Lane, and we are directly opposite, a stone's throw away from there.
Okay, super duper. And so, final few questions just to get to know you a bit better.
Yeah,
And we'll jump straight in. What's your favorite smell?
sandalwood.
Okay, you're
Honestly,
gonna
it's
go
sandalwood.
well.
I I love the smell of sandalwood. Does it have to be food related? If it's food
No,
related,
it's just like
then
your
rose.
favorite smell.
So so it's sandalwood. I love the smell of sandalwood. It takes me back to really nice childhood memories in India. And I actually often light sandalwood every day in the restaurant. It's very, very important to me. I love that smell.
Oh, really nice. What's your favorite season?
Autumn. Autumn.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm an autumn person. I love crispy leaves, cool
Yeah,
weather,
yeah.
slightly moggy when it's like, nice like coffee, croissant weather, cozy weather. Not too cold, but yeah, definitely autumn.
What's your favorite word? Is there a word you overuse? do you think?
I don't think I should say that out loud. Yeah.
What
Favorite
does it begin?
word.
Oh, I was going to say, what letters are we talking about?
If I'm in the kitchen, it begins with F. If I am sorry, if I'm
Yeah.
talking to staff, it's listen, because they're all they're young and they want to give me their opinions, and I love it,
Yeah.
but at the same time I just want them to listen because I'm old and I do know what I'm talking about sometimes.
Yeah. But
Um
anyway.
but otherwise, favorite word is probably, what word do I overuse? I don't know actually.
Tell me, Mehak, actually, I didn't ask, but how much cooking do you do in the business?
So a lot. So all the
Okay.
so everything that you will taste at the restaurant is basically all my food. They're all my
Okay.
recipes. Everything has been set by me. I do
Yeah.
have a team of wonderful chefs,
Okay.
and they have learnt all my recipes down to a T, and they're the ones that predominantly serve you.
Right.
However, I am always floating around, whether it's the front or the back. So if I
Okay.
see that, the back need help, and if they need someone to help on the pass, then I, get my stuff on,
Yeah.
hairnet
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and I'm on the
Yeah.
pass and I'm doing it, and I'll roll out the food. If they need a hand on the bar, I'll be banging out your cocktails. Or if
Yeah.
they need
Okay.
help,
Yeah.
just if they need help on reception, then I'm there.
Yeah.
But we are looking to move on to a second and third site soon. So we've got
Okay.
a really, really good team that have set up, and they've know the processes and things. But otherwise, pretty much heavily involved all the time. You'll see me there
Okay.
all the time.
Super. What's your favorite ingredient?
Saffron or
Mm-hmm.
garlic.
Mm.
Yeah.
Favorite color?
Baby pink. As weird as that sounds, it is baby pink. You'll see that in
Nice.
some of my cocktails and my colors. I love the hue. I love it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And last but not least, favorite drink?
Kumquat margarita made with
Mm.
mezcal. That is my
Oh,
most favorite drink. Yeah,
nice.
I
Well,
could do with 5 of them. Yeah.
what now? Or?
No, probably I would never say no to a kumquat margarita. I am just like, yeah, there. Yeah,
Oh,
very bad.
super duper. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute delight, as always, talking to you. And yeah, just enjoy your evening. Thank you all for joining us today. And
No,
we
thank
will
you.
see you at the same place, same time, in a fortnight's time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.